I started remembering Lay and Alex, and now I know what my mother did. Before I ran away, before I watched the show, I was brought to the auditions. My parents had a big argument, and my mother was shouting that I was too fragile, but my father shouted back that Luke was too old.
He won't be harmed. He will be a star.
After the fight, Mom came to my room. She picked the clothes I would wear, combed my hair, and even put on some makeup on my face. "We have to make a good impression." She smiled at me, but I knew she wasn't happy. Something was going on. I'd forgotten all of that, but now it was coming back. Parents weren't allowed inside for the auditions. They had given us all a sentence, put us in front of a camera and filmed how we said it. I don't remember much more, only that a number of children were filtered out. 2 girls were picked for the female roles, and for the male roles, there were the 3 boys left. I didn't know who they were back then, but now I realized it must have been Alex, Lay, and me. That's where things got really fucked up. 2 of us were supposed to be chosen for the show, and I think I had a pretty good chance, but then something happened. My mother killed me. The memories came back in little chunks, which I assume had something to do with how the following day went. Because now, 15 years later, Lay and I were back at the auditions. It wasn't easy, but Luke left. Lay instructed him not to go to any authorities about this. He said it would make things even harder for us. He promised we would be fine as he knew how to deal with them. The producer sent us to separate hotel rooms to rest for the following day. We were on the 11th floor, and our doors were locked from the outside, but we realized we could communicate by opening our windows. Our rooms were right next to each other. "I don't know what will happen to us now, but can we be honest with each other?" I asked, sitting on the window ledge. Lay was silent for a moment. "Yeah," he finally replied. "Why did you tell them where we are?" "What?" "The producer, you sent them our location." Lay huffed. "No, I didn't. I'm sure it was Jacob, genius." "Right. But I saw the text," I protested. "Yeah, that wasn't to the producer. It was still dumb and risky, though." He sighed. "Sorry, I should have told you. Remember how I said that I didn't know where Alex was? A while back, he just disappeared. No contact, nothing. I sent that text to another friend that went through the Warley madness with us. This will sound weird, but I guess everything does at the moment. The Warley people have a way of creating new versions of us." "Like on the tapes?" "No, worse. Those versions are real. They look like us, at least from a distance. They are more fucked, uncanny, and they can manipulate us. If you saw messed up tapes from your childhood, it might possibly not have been the real you. Anyway, I warned my friend that it could happen again, and I wanted to make sure that whatever happened, she knew that it was me." My head started hurting, but weirdly, it made sense to me. Maybe after all I'd witnessed in those days, things couldn't surprise me anymore. "Do you think your friend can help us?" No, she's on the other side of the world right now. That's the only reason I texted her. Wouldn't have involved her otherwise. But in case something happened, I wanted to give her at least our last location." I swallowed. For a second I had a bit of hope, but it was quickly taken again. "Can you be honest with me as well?" Lay asked. I nodded, which I realized he couldn't see, but he continued anyway. "Your parents killed mine, didn't they? After everything I've learned about them, I think it might be possible." After that, we both closed our windows. I only slept for an hour or 2 that night, though as I was lying in bed, it felt as if I was living somewhere in between the wake and the dream world, and that's where the memories came back more detailed. The auditions. The 3 of us were sitting in a colorful room on plastic chairs, surrounded by toys that we were way too old for already. Lay was really chatty and seemed incredibly fun back then. Neither of us knew that we were cousins, but we got along well. Alex was quieter, but had something very cool about him. I remember that now. Hanging out with them was fun. I don't think any of us were feeling competitive. After a few hours inside that waiting room, they asked us back to the studio. Again, our parents were nowhere to be found. Most of the lights inside the studio were turned off, but I could see that they had built a set. The ground felt like a sponge, and everywhere we took was kind of a little jump. Alex was giggling until the voice of a man welcomed us. Next to him stood two other boys. I couldn't see a lot, but they had much resemblance with Lay and Alex.
Max, the producer said, you did a wonderful job. However, at this time, we can't consider you for the show. You will meet your mother in the parking lot.
That was it. Lay and Alex said goodbye to me, but their voices sounded different. Scared. While I was sad that I wouldn't be joining them, I still felt relief opening the door of this studio and getting out. I remember that my bag was still inside the dressing room, where I was brought at the very beginning, so I walked there first. And that's when I saw the corpses. There were multiple bodies lying on the ground. They had been cut open, and a purple substance was leaking from them. The substance made me believe that they were props, so with a beating heart I went to inspect them further. And that's when I realized that they all looked like me, in different years of my life. One of them, the biggest one, was wearing the same clothes I was wearing that day. At first, I thought it was cool. I was 13 and believed that they had created them for the show. But then I noticed that one of them was slowly moving his hand. I stumbled back towards the door and I started running. I didn't stop until I found my mom's car. The drive home felt like a fever dream.
You will forget this soon enough, my dear. It will be like a dream. Your father would have been proud if you made the cut, but I believe your cousin will do just fine. The producers will be happy.
She kept staring right ahead, hardly blinking at all. I noticed the purple blood splatters on her skirt, but I didn't ask her about it. At home, she played her part well, crying her eyes out because they chose Lay instead of me, acting like she was disappointed because we couldn't be a bigger part of the production. But now I believe that for a little while, she slipped out of the manipulation and saved me, or at least won some time. Those memories had been buried somewhere deep inside of me, but now they felt crystal clear, especially after what Lay had told me about the copies. A knock on my hotel door brought me back to the present. I opened it, and some worker gave me a tray with breakfast. I asked them questions, but received no answers. An hour later, there was another knock. The same person brought me and Lay downstairs to the room with the swimming pool. When they opened the door, we heard the sound of a familiar-sounding jingle. Dun dun, dun dun dun. Lay clenched his fist.
There you are!
The producer lady welcomed us, but I didn't even look at her. I was overwhelmed by the strange surroundings. I'd seen indoor pools before, but they had changed everything about it. The room was lit with gray and blue lights. Inside the pool was a dark substance that appeared sticky. Around it, they had created fake bushes and trees. There were cameras running the entire time. Beside the producer, there were a few workers, all dressed in the same overall. One of them was Jacob.
We are so excited to create a new audition tape with you. However, our new concept will be a one-man show. For this reason, we would like to estimate in advance who our new star will be. We only want the strongest one, the best.
The acoustics in the room made it sound like she was everywhere around us.
I will be completely honest, neither of you was our first choice. We believe to have the best one secured, but he is not currently in our possession. In your possession? What the fuck is wrong with you people?
Lay shouted. Even through the bad lighting, I could see that she was just rolling her eyes.
Anyway, Whoever pushes the other one into the pool first wins. You will both be handed the same weapon to keep things fair."
Two of the assistants walked over and handed each of us a knife. My stomach started turning.
"You want us to fight? This is ridiculous. Neither of us wants to do this."
Lay looked at me, but I couldn't make eye contact. My body was trembling.
I will do it. I'll be your star or whatever. Just let Max go," he said,
surprising both me and the producer. She started laughing.
"How very brave of you, but this is not how it works. We need to see who is better."
I moved a step closer to the pool and looked at the substance. My sneaker touched the edge and the fabric immediately started to melt.
"You want us to kill the other?" I whispered. "What if we don't do it?" Lay asked. "We will push both of you in and use one of our spares. We still have the option of a girl and your brother, of course."
I swallowed. There was no way I would kill Lay, but having us both dead wasn't an option either. A timer started ringing.
"Go on!"
she shouted. Lay and I looked at each other, both frozen. I was sure that if it came down to it, he would do it, but he still stood still. I took the knife and cut the inside of my palm. Blood started trickling down. Real, red blood. Lay saw what I did and copied me. His blood was also red. We exchanged another look, as if reading each other's minds. Started running towards the producer. Before I could do anything, Lay had rammed his knife into her stomach. Purple goo started dripping. She opened her mouth, but before she could say anything, I took my knife and I slit her throat. Workers started running towards us from all directions. This was our end. They would kill us both. And that's when my surroundings turned black. When I opened my eyes again, I was looking at an unfamiliar face. Slowly, I was coming back to myself and I saw my surroundings. Lay was lying next to me, awake but just as confused, and Jacob was there, unconscious and tied up. We were inside a moving van.
"Alex?"
he whispered as the stranger smiled and hugged him.
"How?"
Suddenly, I felt wide awake and I looked at the driver. Next to him was a baby seat. Luke.
"You didn't think I'd let you die in there, did you?"
I couldn't comprehend the situation. Tears started forming in my eyes. I didn't believe I would ever see them again. Alex started speaking.
"A lot has happened in the past year. Something I will tell you all about. I was trapped for a long time, but recently found a way out. Of course, I had to stay hidden. The only person who knew where I was my mom, and yesterday, Helen called her. I didn't know what was going on, so I just drove to the location you had sent, and that's where I met Luke. He was on his way to go in with a gun." "A great plan, Luke," Lay mumbled.
"Yeah, I wasn't exactly thinking straight. Alex had a much better plan. We used gas to knock everyone inside out. I suppose we were just in time."
"But you said getting out won't help us," I said to Lay. "It didn't. Not really, but we want some time. I have a place where we'll be safe for a little while," Alex answered for him in a stern tone. "A friend will be waiting for us there."
"Where are Mom and Dad?" I asked Luke.
"I don't know. They just disappeared."
We got out of hell, but I believe I left a part of me in there. So for now, we might be safe, but as I understood after getting to know Lay better, there is no getting out of this anymore. As we reached the town of Fearway, I realized that this was only the beginning for me, especially as we took Jacob with us. Thanks so much for listening. Again, that was a story from Like I Did, a user on Reddit. That concludes the 6-part series of There Are Two Versions of My Childhood Tapes. And also, the following videos will be about the Warley Adventure Club that kind of ties in with the story. So stay tuned for that. Thanks again.